everybody to this meeting of the BCS Quality SG and jointly with the Business Change SG and also the Hampshire branch. I think that this is going to be a most interesting session, and it links in, although not, I'm told, intentionally, with COP26, because there's quite a lot here that is actually things to do about sustainability and the whole, basically the green world, etc. Now, we're very, very lucky to have Peter coming back to talk to us again. And at that stage, I'm going to pass across to Peter. Thank you very much, Peter.
Okay, thank you, Margaret. I'll let a few more people join in as they arrive. Because in the past I have given presentations and had some technical issues, I have cheated and taped this talk beforehand. But I will be live, I will be here, I will be monitoring questions, and I will be answering questions at the end. You will have access to a PDF version of the slides, and the session is being recorded, so it will be made available to all participants. May I suggest that during the presentation, you turn off cameras and microphones so as to save on bandwidth and avoid that kind of problem. And if that is all, then I will get started. Should I wait another couple? It's only just 6:30 on my computer. I'm actually going to wait another couple of minutes, continue waffling about a bit, because I'm expecting some people will arrive a few minutes late, indeed. What else was I going to say? Yes, if you have got questions, they're very welcome, obviously. If you could put your questions in the chat area, you can, obviously, if you put in the chat, you will see, I'm assuming everyone by now knows how to use Zoom, but it says to everyone. So if you put it in there to everyone, it was being monitored, it will be followed through. And if I don't pick it up myself, Margaret will pick it up and tell me what people are asking. Also, if you want additional information, I can send you some additional information regarding this whole approach. You can send me an email directly to me. So if you click on the everyone, you should be able to send an email to a message just to me. And if I get messages just to me with email addresses, I will send out tomorrow probably some additional information, links to presentation, where you can find it, where you can download it, and possibly answer some additional questions as they come on. It's now 6:32, so I am going to be mean and start. Margaret, you will continue monitoring the waiting room and let people in, I hope.
Absolutely. I'm still doing that at the moment.
And I will get started here. So I am sharing the film with sound. You might want to reduce the pictures of presenters so that you can see the full thing. I know that sometimes the pictures take up a lot of space on the screen with Zoom. So I've been told the sound is a little bit softer in the film than when I am speaking. So you might want to turn up the volume very slightly on your side. And I will start it off now. Welcome to this brief introduction to Vitruvian quality, a concept I've been developing over the past few years to help organizations establish a consistent culture for delivering quality at every level. Before going into the details of the management and the Vitruvian quality aspect, I just would like to cover some of the basic work practices that you find in most industries. So most companies start off with a vision, an idea, which gets turned into goals and made into a plan, which allows a project to do some work and deliver a result, deliver an outcome. Very soon there is an understanding that a level of management is needed in order to monitor progress, monitor budgets, monitor work done, monitor time spent, and to replan whenever necessary. Logically, people learn that these measurements can also be used in order to improve the way you estimate and plan in future. Sadly, it's not yet the majority of companies that have understood that. No matter how well your plans and your estimates and your numbers are, things will still surprise you. Some things that you had not considered, accidents happen, and identifying risks should be a major part of everybody's daily activities. If you make the effort to actively identify risks, whatever their source, you can use that additional information to improve your plans and consider new opportunities for the future. This gives us a graphic with 4 triangles that allow us to understand things a little bit better. So known is the collection of your experiences, studies, give you a font of knowledge that can be used to manage your daily work. The known is fed from the past and the discovery of what was previously unknown. The past is the memory that helps you develop detailed plans and procedures, organize and keep track of essential data, and maintain standard of consistency. Memory allows us to learn from experience and start understanding the impact to the future. Imagination and planning, prejudice and suppositions all help us to form the future in our minds based on our experience, our analysis of new unknown events and sensations. And the unknown are things we confront every day, which we do not understand and could not predict. The assault of the unknown is what guides us in our daily lives to determine how to act in order to understand based on what we already know. This corresponds nicely to the traditional hemispheres of the brain: left brain, right brain, limbic versus cerebral. Of course, ideas and concepts do not come from one part of the brain, but come from the interaction between these parts of the brain. And that is critically important because the brain is your most important organ and the only one that truly allows you to interact with the rest of the world. You receive stimuli from the world, you influence the world, and in between those two moments there is a very brief time of potential for growth and freedom. And that is true as an individual, but it is also true as an organization trying to influence the market. So if you want to evolve your organization or the individuals, if you want to influence them, you will need to access all parts of the brain. You need to access and motivate the rational and responsive, the reactive and the reflective ways of thinking. This means that you are going to have to put in place, make sure that you have got acceptance, that you accept the need to change the way things are done. You need to have the ability to change the way things are done and to do things the new way. You need to have the tools, the resources, the money, the time, whatever it takes. You then need to have the aspiration, wanting to see the result, wanting to see a better world, wanting to see something coming out of this. And then finally, you need an attitude that makes you do things according to those aspirations, acceptance, and ability. This requires a combination of management and leadership. which are two separate things. So let me start with management. I'll come back to leadership. As a manager, your role is not to manage. It is certainly not to bully people or tell more experienced and smarter people than you how to do their job. Your role is not even to motivate. That's a leadership role. Your role as a manager is to satisfy the innate desire that people have to take pride in the value of their work. And that is what we want to work towards. I want you to be proud of the value you are creating. So I'm going to talk about business management, some ideas of management principles, then I'll get down to the details of Vitruvian quality, and finally some conclusions. First of all, business management, a fishy story of the kind of business you're in. Some businesses, many businesses start off like small independent fish. They're quick to change, to adapt, to change directions, to turn around. They're flexible, they're agile. They're under continuous pressure because they are big predators. It's nice to be independent, small, responsive, and agile. It's great to be able to decide whether you want to go with the flow or swim upstream, but you need to be aware at all times that others are seeking to take you out, take your business, your clients, your ideas, your best people. And so small businesses form massive groups to help protect themselves from the predators. Some businesses are like sharks. They've been around for a long time, they're large, powerful, and feared. And because of their structure, they need to continuously progress, growing, swimming, eating all the time in order to survive. Being the biggest in the pond is always a good feeling. You're master of your domain. Of course, there are other big businesses out there against whom you sometimes have to compete and with whom sometimes you need to collaborate. Most sharks are independent and solitary. The black-tip shark is possibly the only one that actually hunts in a pack. So what the black-tipped shark will do, particularly when there's a group of anchovies swarming around in the neighborhood, the anchovies are small, agile, fast, as well as being tasty, as far as a shark is concerned. But because of this, when a shark comes into the swarm, it very quickly spreads open, leaving nothing to be eaten. So the sharks have to find a way to get into the swarm. And what the black-tip shark does is they group together, they surround the anchovies. They completely surround them, leaving nowhere for them to flee, so that the place where they could go is shut down and the sharks can feed and create a frenzy of feeding, sometimes even attracting seabirds to come and join in. But there's another approach, and that other approach is the octopus. The octopus is one of the oldest animals in the world. It is an animal in which intelligence has evolved completely separately and differently to the way we think of it. These are animals that have survived for millennia, even though they have got no shell, no defense, no claws, no teeth, no skeleton. The only hard part to their body is their beak, meaning they can squeeze through a hole that is just a little bit bigger than their eye. The traditional characteristics of intelligence are that you can think abstractly, understand, communicate, solve problems, learn, form memories, make plans. Octopi, cephalopods have been able to do all of this. Okay, they can learn new things, they can demonstrate short-term and long-term memory, they can differentiate between people who are dressed identically, they've got spatial memory and object perception. They've demonstrated planning. So if an octopus is going someplace where there is no protection for it, it remembers this, and it will carry through a shell, a coconut, and broken bottles, something in which it can hide to protect itself. They've also been proven to be playful. Unique among non-social animals, an octopus is as playful as a 5-year-old human. But what really makes them special is their superpowers. An octopus can not only change color, but can change the texture of its skin in an eye blink. These are colorblind animals that take on the color of their surroundings because they're not seeing it through their eyes, they're seeing it through their skin. They are not communicating the need to change all the way up to the brain, and the brain has to send commands back down. The skin sees, the skins do it. Additionally, about 2/3 of their neurons are not in their brain, in their head, but are actually in their arms. Each arm can think for itself, can taste, can smell. The 6 main arms tend to find something that might be food and pass it upward to the 2 smaller ones, which will verify it and then decide to pass it into the beak or not. Octopus has distributed intelligence, sees with its skin, makes decisions in its arms without necessarily communicating to the brain. Now, understanding that, let's talk about management. Most organizations end up something like this, with a head that does all the thinking and all the reflection and passes down commands to the lower branches. There is somewhere a small group of people doing what your client actually wants. These are the people who are building the widgets, are writing the code, are delivering the service to the customer, and a large group of people that are trying to control them. When someone at the front line encounters a new problem and a decision needs to be made, they have to report it up to the head, and it can take days or even weeks for the information to get all the way to the top and come back down. Every layer of middle management in between is an additional opportunity for mistakes, misunderstanding, miscommunication. If you are playing the management game and the internal politics, it's also an opportunity for censorship and whitewashing. This is not suitable in the 21st century and really needs to be changed. Because in a hierarchical organization, promotion is more important than performance. Good engineers are being promoted to become bad managers, and people very rapidly learn to obey rules rather than implement what is necessary for business. The effort to reduce costs, the effort to increase efficiency is counterbalanced by the enormous cost of the overhead. And the compliance to average becomes the focal point. I spoke earlier on about the idea of having a full brain way of working. We need to try to come back to this concept. It's not easy. Many organizations, many employees feel that their work is still limited to doing stuff without really understanding the context. And some will go one step further and say that management is not doing their part of the work, and they're just spinning wheels to try to be faster, cheaper, with no clear strategy or plan. But when we put in place the management concept, there is one word that appears which should really help and make things better, but frequently doesn't. And that one word is measurement. And it doesn't help because measurement has been the obsession since Taylor. We all understand we need to measure. However, measurement is difficult and is usually focused on measuring things that are easy to quantify. We are measuring money, we are measuring minutes, and we are measuring widgets produced. The things that are truly important for the future of the organization are not measured for this very bad reason. They are not measured because they are difficult to measure. And this obsession with measuring the wrong thing has impacted every single approach to management over the past 100 years and is negatively impacting good ways of working for internal improvement. Now, I'm not against measurement. I think measurement is very important. I think measure the process, measure the tool, don't measure the people. Measurement is good. It allows us to look back and identify the time when things were going particularly well and find out what happened. It allows us to look back and identify times when things seem to be going wrong and identify what happened and learn lessons. It allows us to identify trends where suddenly things are going better or worse and decide what can be done. But measurement is a reactive approach. It is not a proactive approach. Okay? So using measurement, absolutely, retroactively, it's a great thermometer. It is not a thermostat. The bell curve tyranny is when you are forcing people to be compliant, to be average, to fit in the bell curve. You have hired people because they are clever, because they're intelligent, because they're experienced, because they know their business, and now you're telling them, don't think, don't change anything, follow the steps, stay in the bell curve. And slowly but surely you're transforming these people into zombies. Offices around the world are full of zombies who work their 8 hours per day without passion, without interest in the results or the outcomes. A typical sign of the zombie is the complete lack of understanding, emotions, or thought. Zombies are only interested in their immediate need and the satisfaction of their hunger. By forcing engineers to work according to strict rules and metrics, we are rapidly moving towards a mindless work to satisfy a metric without understanding or knowledge. If you are only interested in satisfying your metric, your KPI, your predefined level of efficiency, your profit objectives, you will soon learn to play the numbers, being less productive, reporting incorrect data that allows you to pretend to be more efficient. And the result is the data is wrong, the engineers lose interest in really delivering quality, the best people find work somewhere else. Luckily, over the past few years, there has been more of an approach to systemic management. Management that is flexible, shifting boundaries, making changes, making things happen. They're learning to deal with complexity by having flexible structures and working on symbiotic relationships, allowing teams to make their own decision. That means that they are pushing teams to be more independent and more empowered. But empowering teams has got a caveat to it. You have to give them the power to be empowered. In other words, you have to start thinking of your organization like an octopus. You need to set up an organization where there are cells, groups, teams of people who are doing similar work, different projects, different department, different silos, whatever it is, but they are coming together on a regular basis, on a weekly basis, to discuss their problems, to discuss how things are working, what are the issues, to solve their own problems. So project managers are working together to decide how to solve project management issues. The idea of a cell is a group of people. No, it is a team of people working together, meeting on an ongoing basis to solve their own problems and make their own decisions. Their focus is on doing the work in their area, like the arm of an octopus. We still, of course, we need a head to the octopus, so we need some way of identifying roles and responsibilities, identify the key needs of the organization, coordinate, make sure the skills and experience are there. The head defines the game plan so that every member of the team can take pride in being a winning team. And each one takes responsibility for achieving that winning status. This is the point of Vitruvian quality, to help you be an efficient octopus. Of course, some people might say that they don't really want to be an octopus, but that they would like to remain flexible and small fish and have the agile aspect and deciding where they want to work. It's nice. It's a nice concept. So you want to decide for yourself if you're going to swim with the flow or swim upstream. The only issue is you are the constant victim of predators who would like to take you out. But then maybe you think, no, I am going to be a shark. I'm going to be the big one in the business. I am going to be the shark in my pond, the biggest, the master of the domain. I will be the king shark. But the shark is all muscle and very little brain. So when the shark comes across to have a taste of octopus, it is an uneven battle, because before the shark can think and transfer information, the octopus arms have already made that decision, and they can capture, kill, and eat the shark. You want to be an octopus. I need to introduce you to Vitruvius. Vitruvius was born 70, 80 years before Christ, died 15, 20 years after. We're not quite sure about all this. We're not quite sure about his name. It could be Marcus Vitruvius Pollio, it could be Lucius Vitruvius Cordio, it could be Marmora, we don't know. There's a picture of him. It probably did not look like this, because we don't really know. He's the father of architecture, but we only know of one building he made, which is the Basilica at Fano in northeast Italy. She's destroyed without a trace. What he did leave, however, which was important, was a treatise on De Architectura, in which he explains the various principles of architecture, including structure, proportions, quality. In this treatise, he explains how the proportions of man are ideal and should be respected in the building. And yes, sorry, he did say the proportions of man. He thought the proportions of a woman were less ideal. I don't know why. I don't really care to know why. Those proportions were illustrated in Da Vinci's famous drawing of Vitruvian man. But beyond that, he defined the key characteristics of quality and said that every structure, every product must respect three principles: firmitatis, utilitatis, venustatis. You have to be stable, useful, beautiful. Stability, your product has to be firm. Your walls should not fall down when the wind is too strong. Your software should not lose the data when the computer goes down. You have to be able to trust it. It has to be useful. It has to respond to a need of your clients, of your users. It has to make their life better somehow. And it needs to be desirable, attractive, admirable. You want people to want to own your product. Too frequently we forget that quality means all three of these elements. Satisfying requirements, that is usefulness. If you've done it correctly, you've probably put some stability into it as well. Beauty is just as important. Vitruvius' principles of proportions and quality were respected by some of the greatest artists of the Italian Renaissance, who brought back up his concepts and documentation and ideas and re-influenced them. In fact, all the way up to late 20th century, when Christopher Alexander wrote a couple of books about Vitruvius' principles in the modern world and creating a pattern language for architecture, in which he explains how the pattern used to create a nation, a city, a neighborhood, a house, a room, should all repeat the same concepts so that it is understandable. This was taken over in the mid-1990s in what was the seminal book of object-oriented software. So here we have a Roman architect who 2,000 years later influenced the way software is being developed. A basic idea is the use of patterns, reusable building blocks that allow you to create variety and complexity through assembly rather than through bottom-up design. This is something we continue to find in all kinds of levels. We find them everywhere. We find them in constructions. We find them in software. We find them throughout the world. And it is what led me to decide in a management pattern, which I am going to go through now. The idea of the management pattern, the idea behind VQ, Vitruvian quality, was to create a pattern that one could use in a variety of organizations and structures to perform all kinds of operations and missions. I based it around Da Vinci's Vitruvian Man because it looks good. The basic idea is that every worker at every level needs to believe and understand. I need to believe and understand in the mission of my organization, and I need to believe and understand that what I am doing today will facilitate that mission and make something better for someone. So the number one idea behind VQ is that we have a clear structure, consistent communication in place, in which every element reinforces the rest. Okay, it becomes an ecosystem. Every component is dependent on the whole. It all works together. It starts at the top level when we are talking about the mission of your organization. Why do you exist? What are you trying to achieve in the world? That is translated into visions, policies, and so on. But it goes all the way down to the bottom, where I understand that the roles, the responsibilities I have, the tasks I need to do, how this enforces the mission, and I can understand how to recommend improvements that fit into the total mission picture. We start at the beginning, mission statement. What is the purpose of your organization? Can you clearly state why you exist, why your organization was founded, why it continues to exist? What is the product or service that you believe will make the world a better place? What is it that was missing that you are providing? What is your added value to the universe? That mission statement gets translated down into the visions. Typically, I'm expecting 2 visions. Most organizations, when I ask for a vision, give me the commercial vision. This is the external one, in which I am telling people why they should come and buy from us and why we are better than our competitors. But there is an internal vision I want to see as well. The internal vision is, why would you want to work here in 2, 5, or 10 years' time when you know you could earn more money somewhere else? You need to be able to respond to that for your staff members. The vision is the starting point, the breadth of the organization, the arms. This is where we see the width of the organization. We have got on one side the policy which is establishing what is not negotiable. So policies are there to say what is not acceptable within your organization. It is not telling you what to do or how to do it. It is telling you that certain things will not be allowed, will not be tolerated. They should not change that often. On the other arm, we have got the translation of the vision into a strategy in which it explains how the vision and policy are going to be transformed into tangible results. What is going to happen? What are the priorities? And possibly most important, what is not included in the strategy? What are you not going to do or accept? Stability is provided by the knees. It's technology, it's the tools, it's the templates, it's the hardware, it's all the things that are necessary to be brought in to support the rest of the business. Technology requires an analysis. How will this help us? How will this help our employees? How will it forward the mission? So whenever you're looking at new technology, you will come back to the strategy, to the policies, to the vision, to the mission. The other knee is the process. The process defines what needs to be done. Process, again, are methods. It's the way we do things. It's the way we work. It explains what needs to be done, not necessarily how it needs to be done. It's the other knee. It gives stability to the whole thing. The processes, like the technology, are there to support the people. They are there if the process or the technology does not make it easier to produce high quality. It's a bad process, it's bad technology, and should not be accepted. And then in the center, we have got training point, at the center of gravity of the business. Training is teaching people how to follow the process, how to use the technology, how to apply the procedures, how to use the tools. This is very much focused on teaching people how to do things. If you don't have training, you will have people applying the tools badly, following the process stupidly. And then finally, your progress forward, given by the feet, is continual improvement. It's the basis of your future efficiency. Considering that everything we've said so far is in place, employees can identify better ways of doing things, better technologies, better ideas, better products, better services. This is basic management. Now we have got the circle around the Vitruvian man, which are the things that get to be forgotten. Roles and responsibilities. Every individual should know and should have documented their role, their responsibility, their authority, their career path, and their skills progression. This needs to be defined, this needs to be documented, this needs to be shared. Every individual needs to have regular feedback, justified, quick, frequent, positive or constructive. There is no such thing as negative feedback. If you haven't got a suggestion, then you don't have anything. If someone did something wrong, just telling them off doesn't help anyone, it just demoralizes. Yearly performance reviews should be banned. They are incredibly destructive and demotivating, as well as taking up a ridiculous amount of time. If I did something wrong, if I'm going in the right direction, I want to know now, not in a year's time at my next review. This becomes standard. Feedback is part of the culture. The culture in general is the attitude that staff display when no one is watching. Okay, it is what they consider as natural, normal, obvious. A culture review is when an independent, an objective person tries to conduct a confidential review of what staff believe is going on within the organization. Organization values are critically linked to the culture. So again, you need to understand what are the values that you want to have. Communication, not just feedback, communication needs to be open, facilitated, and structured. Of course, the chain of command is useful and it's important, but you need to be able to bypass it. I want to be able to do it differently. I want top-down communication, I want bottom-up communication, and I want sideways communication. I want to be able to share with other people who are doing something similar what works, what doesn't work. If I think the top manager is making a mistake or missing something, I want to be able to communicate that without risking my job. Earlier on, I talked about training. Education is very different. Training is telling you how to do things. Education is telling you why you're doing things, understanding it, and learning to think for yourself. Education is probably a lot more important, and yet we spend very little time in business doing it. I think we do spend too little time in schools doing it as well, but that's another problem. And finally, we get down to the tasks and procedures. Everyone understands their tasks and procedures, understand how what I am doing today fits into the general mission statement, how I am helping to achieve that mission in which I believe. And that's basically the components of Vitruvian quality. Everything has to be understood at every level. Everything must be trusted and believed at every level. And now you complete that picture with fractal management. Here's something completely different. Okay? Fractal management, every component is dependent on the whole. That means that when I am given a job to do, I can see within my job, within my tasks, the full picture of the organization. So even though this is just a small job that needs to be completed, I still need to do a requirements analysis. I still need to estimate how long it's going to take, to plan what tools, technology, or people I'm going to need in order to do it. I need to do the work, monitor it, make sure that it works, record the time it took. So all the project management activities are reflected within each individual activity, and the company mission, the company vision is reflected within each one of these activities. And so, in conclusion, few basic concepts that I've tried to cover here. Number one, I want you to be a full brain organization. I want you to be an organization that looks to the future by understanding the past, that judges the unknown by sharing the known. I want you to be a full brain organization that can truly influence the world and accept the stimuli from the external world and know how to process and work intelligently with this. I want you to be an octopus organization. I want you to share the knowledge, the decision making throughout all your arms. Share the information, allow people to make their own decision at the point where it matters, rather than waiting for senior management to respond. A sharing organization in which information is shared amongst colleagues, amongst management and everybody else. All this should lead you to being a proud organization in which every teammate has done their job, has achieved the results, and can take pride in the work, in the result that has been achieved at a personal level and at a global level. I want you to be a wise organization, an organization that uses data for good reasons, not measuring or controlling things for the sake of measuring or controlling, but actually measuring and controlling things because it builds up your wisdom within your organization and helps you predict the future as and when necessary. And finally, I want you to be a coherent organization, an organization in which everybody believes in the mission statement, believes that the work they are doing helps achieve that mission, and you've got a coherent communication at every level. And so that is the end of my presentation. I'm now open to some questions if you have, and while we go over these questions, I'll give you a few books that I believe are very useful in trying to move this forward. Strongly recommended reading, not necessarily all management, but working towards it, working towards culture, management, sharing, and communication.